In this video, I'm going to explain why dogs bite. I'm going to reveal the warning signs that your dog may be about to attack somebody, but more importantly, I'm going to explain what you can do to prevent an attack from happening in the first place. I'm Colin Butcher, the Pet Detective, and welcome back to Pet Detective TV. I have worked with dogs for over 30 years. I grew up in Asia alongside street dogs. As an aviator in the military, I was taught how to evade war dogs. And as a detective on drugs enforcement, I routinely worked alongside highly trained search dogs. And as a pet detective, I come into contact with every conceivable breed on a regular basis. But I've only ever been bitten once. And it wasn't by a large breed, it wasn't by an aggressive dog, it was by my own working Cocker Spaniel, and it was completely my fault. In 2025, police forces across the United Kingdom recorded nearly 30,000 incidents of dogs causing injury, and in the last 5 years, over 30 people have died as a result of being attacked by a dog, and thousands more have sustained life-changing injuries, and many of the victims of those attacks were children. So what on earth is going on? Why are so many people being bitten by dogs? Well, despite all the media attention surrounding dog attacks, especially the more serious incidents, the 10 million or so people that choose to share their home with one or more dogs have little or no understanding of what causes a dog to attack. And I call this collective ignorance. Now, before you jump on your high horse and say, oh, I know my dog more than anybody, my dog would never bite, let me ask you a quick question. What is an acute stress response? Too late. That is how some dogs will respond to acute stress. And the bigger the dog, the more damage it will do. Now, recently, the government decided that dog aggression is all down to the popularity of certain breeds, and they've banned the XL Bully. But XL Bully owners are saying there's no such thing as a bad dog, only a bad owner. And numerous animal behavior experts have jumped on the bandwagon, which is all about the pandemic, claiming that during lockdown, dogs were not socialized properly, so therefore they've got less control. Whilst that's a contributing factor, it's not the cause. If you want to understand the root cause of the surging dog attacks, then you have to take a much closer look at dog behavior and how dogs cope with stress. The Nobel Prize winning biologist Paul Nurse argues that all living organisms, and a dog of course is a living organism, need to be able to collect and use information about the world in which they live and their internal state. And when those worlds change, dogs need to be able to respond rapidly and with a sense of purpose. If they do not, then they may find out their future is rather brief. This biological imperative explains dogs' volatile response to a crisis. When faced with a threat, a dog simply has 3 cards to play: freeze, flee, or stand and fight. And last year, nearly 30,000 people discovered it's a very painful experience when a dog elects to stand and fight. So just about all dog attacks are caused by stress: acute stress, which is the rapid change in circumstances, and chronic stress, which is more to do with the dog's internal state. But are you aware that there's 2 types of stress? There's good stress, what's known as eustress, spelled with an EU, and this is the feeling that you experience if you're about to start a new job or go on holiday, and you'll witness eustress in your dogs. It's what you'll see when you come home from work, when your dogs are running around your feet, or before you feed them, or before you take them for a walk. And then there's bad stress, what's known as distress. And bad stress negatively impacts upon the dog's homeostasis. And homeostasis all to do with how a dog maintains a stable internal condition. And when that changes, there's a significant increase that the dog may bite. So what can trigger a dog to behave this way? Well, let me give you my experience. So a few years ago, Molly and I were working on a missing cat search in Andover. We were just coming to the end of the search and cutting through some woodland when Molly suddenly veered up a bank following a scent trail. When she got to the top of the bank, she was bitten by an adder. She fell backwards onto the ground, and as she hit the ground, the snake was trapped underneath her. It detached from her chest and bit her a second time and then disappeared into the undergrowth. I rushed across to Molly, who was now paralysed, picked her up and then dashed back to my car intending to take her to a vet. I placed her on the ground, and when I picked her up to put her back into my car, she bit me. And she bit me incredibly hard. And Molly was responding to acute stress, the pain in her chest. As far as she was concerned, there was only one option available to her, which was to bite. There is, however, one exception to the rule, and isn't there always? This exception applies to where dogs are regularly exposed to acute stress. If in these circumstances a dog starts to respond aggressively on most occasions, then effectively it trains itself that aggression is the best way to respond to acute stress. This is why some dogs seem to be barking all the time or come across as being quite aggressive. So what is the likelihood that your dog would bite somebody? Well, all dogs are individuals, and how they deal with stress depends on three key factors. The first is genetics. What is your dog born with? Some dogs are bred to be more dominant, more assertive. These are the guard dog breeds. Other dogs are bred to hunt, greyhounds, whippets, and some of the spaniels. And some dogs are bred to hunt and kill small rodents, so some of the small bully breeds and some of the terrier breeds. The second issue is experience. Rough handling or harsh training can induce aggression because it creates acute stress. So how the dog has responded to that acute stress in the past will determine how it responds again. And I've already covered that point earlier. And then the next issue, and this is now by far the most important, is environment. An awful lot of dog attacks take place in or around the owner's home, and this is primarily due to the fact that the dog simply doesn't have enough space. Now, this could be down to the owner has picked the wrong dog for their personal living conditions or has too many dogs. But modern house building techniques are aggravating the problem. The demand for space is leaving developers to build houses smaller and taller with tiny gardens. And when this happens, it's very difficult for the dog to find somewhere in the house, a safe haven, to avoid the hustle and bustle of human life. In addition to which, the small garden makes it very difficult for the dog to get healthy exercise and can leave it with a feeling of confinement. Slowly and surely, there's a build-up of stress, what's known as chronic stress. And when this happens, it significantly increases the likelihood that the dog will snap and turn on its owner or a visitor to the property. And the environmental issue has been compounded by owner behaviour, who are increasingly treating their dogs like people. And I call this the Little Red Riding Hood syndrome, where if you look across social media platforms, people are commonly using the terminology such as fur baby or being the human parent and taking their dogs to doggy daycare centres. And social media influencers and sharp marketing practices are compounding the problem even more by encouraging people to dress their dogs up in all sorts of outfits. The fact remains is this, that your dog has far more in common with a timber wolf than it does you. And in a high stress situation, that is exactly how your dog will behave. And a lot of people are learning a very painful lesson, that the bigger the dog, the more damage it will do. Oh, what big teeth you have, Grandma. So what are the signs that your dog might be getting stressed out? Well, look for a combination of any of the following behaviour. Firstly, physical. Your dog's eyes might be dilated, or your dog might be starting to roll its eyes, what's known as whale eyes. And this might well be accompanied by drooling or panting, which doesn't quite match the weather conditions. Secondly, is what's known as the postural signs. Your dog's ears might be flattened against his skull, what's known as helicopter ears, and he might be wagging its tail in a very tight arc. Then there's behavioural signs. This includes hypervigilance, sudden stillness, or pacing in a tight arc, And often this is accompanied by displacement activity, excessive grooming, sniffing or scratching. And then there's the extreme signs: involuntary urination, a cowering posture, snarling, the baring of the teeth and lunging. And as mentioned earlier, you need to look for a combination of any of these behaviours. So now we come on to the important part of the video. How do you prevent your dog from biting someone? Well, it's all about you evaluating your expectations of your dog and understanding that your dog is a part of the family, but it's not human. A dog will want to chase squirrels in the park, it will bark when the doorbell rings, and it will leave your sofa covered in dog hair. And whilst teaching your dog house rules and basic manners is important, admonishing your dog for not living up to human standards or for being a dog is a fast track to creating chronic stress. Improving your dog's welfare is all about looking past your own expectations and seeing the world through your dog's eyes. It's also about buying into the concept that perhaps you didn't know as much about dog behavior as you thought you did, and then taking the time to learn a little bit more about your own dog's behavior. Creating a harmonious environment for your dog will reap years and years of pleasure and reward for you and your dog. Don't forget to create those little safe havens in the home where your dog can go and feel completely chilled out. And when your dog goes to those locations, let them be. Quite often, when a dog's getting a bit stressed, the only thing that you need to do is to tweak the environment, monitor the situation, but most of all, simply let your dog be a dog. I'll see you all soon. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to come back and watch more of my videos. Bye-bye.